Hey guys, welcome back. This moment honestly feels so special to us. Ever since we moved to Sweden, we've been dreaming about building our own greenhouse in the garden. A place where we can grow our own vegetables, start seedlings early in the season, and just spend more time outside, surrounded by plants. And what makes this project even more special is that almost everything we used is recycled, secondhand, or given to us by other people. Niels' brother flew over with his family to help us with the project. So from day one, this really became such a fun family project. The first day was all about preparing the foundation. We started by digging out the area where the greenhouse is going to stand. And honestly, it was a lot more than we expected. The ground is pretty uneven and full of rocks. But seeing the shape of the greenhouse appear for the first time made everything feel very real. A little later in the video you will see us bringing these huge old telephone poles. Our neighbor actually gave us the idea to use them for the foundation, because these poles are incredibly strong. And they won't rot easily over time, which makes them perfect for a project like this. And honestly, we love the idea of giving old materials a second life. Because the best part was, they were just laying around on our property. But before we could lay them in, the digging felt endlessly. With parts of the ground still frozen, all the rocks. Yeah, it was a lot. Underneath the poles we added a layer of gravel. This helps keep everything stable and properly level. We really wanted to take our time with the foundation, because that's the base for the entire greenhouse. By the end of day one, they had placed 2 of the poles and finished about half of the foundation. And even though it might not look like a huge transformation yet, this actually felt like such a big milestone for us. Because for the first time in 3 years, all the ideas, sketches, collected windows and plans were finally turning into something real. And I think that's also the beauty of this project. We spent so much time dreaming about it, talking about it, collecting materials, and waiting for the right moment. And then suddenly, you're standing in your garden, actually building it with your own hands.
Wat vind je ervan?
Prachtig. Day 2 was basically all about continuing the foundation work. And honestly, this was probably the most physically exhausting part so far. They spent most of the day digging, leveling, measuring and trying to get everything perfectly straight. Which sounds simple, but with the ground here in Sweden, it really isn't. The deeper they dug, the more rocks they kept finding. And actually, not just small rocks. Huge stones deep in the ground. And at some point it honestly felt like every time they removed the stone, 3 new ones appeared.
High five! Zo. Kinderarbeid. Kinderarbeid.
We also facilitated a little bit of child labor. But it was honestly so fun to see how excited the kids were to be a part of it. They were actually completely willing to help, and whatever they could, they did. And they actually made a real difference too. This greenhouse is not just being built by us, but by the whole family together. Once the stones were removed, we could finally continue shaping and leveling the foundation properly. Slowly, everything started to lining up. This is really the kind of work that makes the biggest difference later on. Because if the base isn't solid, nothing else will fit properly afterwards. So by the end of day 2, they were once very tired, but the foundation was really starting to take shape. And while everyone was working really hard on the foundation that day, my sister-in-law and I were actually on a slightly different mission. We had planned a little surprise. We went to pick up my father-in-law from the airport, He secretly had flown in all the way to surprise Niels. He came especially to help us build as well. And we knew this was going to be such a special moment for him. It was finally time to start building. Niels and his father began with the base layer. It was so nice that we were helped by wood from Marius and Lars, 2 neighbors who helped us out massively. And since Lars lives just around the corner, they first made a quick trip by car to pick everything up from him. This helps makes a huge difference for us. Alongside the wood we already have lying around ourselves. This honestly saves us so much time and made this part of the build a lot more doable. For Logan it mostly looks like a big sandbox at this point, so he definitely is making the most out of it while he can. On day 4 we really made some huge progress, and once again everyone was there to help. We started by carefully checking all the measurements of the windows, making sure everything was going to fit properly in the structure. Then we repaired the windows themselves, getting them ready for installation later on. And after that, we started figuring out exactly where all the vertical posts needed to go, so the frame would line up perfectly with the windows. Step by step, it slowly started to take shape. And of course, we had some real Dutch stroopwafels with coffee. And just like that, you slowly started to see the main frame. And by the end of the day, we actually built the main frame, the skeleton of the greenhouse. And seeing it standing here like for the first time was really a big moment. We could even already start installing the roof supports at this point. And honestly, that felt like a huge step forward in the build. Because until then, everything was still very open and flexible.
Ga er even bij staan voor het shot. Jij ook. Doe net alsof je wat doet. Beetje Faisal, yeah. Doe er maar in, Pieter. Yeah. Doe er maar in.
But the moment those roof beams went in, you could really start to see the shape of the greenhouse coming together. It suddenly felt more like a real structure, instead of just a frame in the garden. And knowing we're already at this stage on day 4, we even had time to start placing the first windows at the front of the greenhouse. We installed them on both sides of the door frame, which already made it start to feel such more like finish and real. And somehow we even managed to get the top window working so it can actually open and close. That was definitely one of those small moments that feels like a huge big win. Day 4 was honestly the best day.
Ja, je moet wel goed kracht zetten.
Zo niet. Ik leg zien.
On day 5, everything started to feel like a well-oiled machine. By now, the plan was clear, and it was all about focusing on the backside of the greenhouse and getting the windows properly installed here. And what I really liked about this part of the day is that suddenly it felt like a smaller, more focused project again. Just Niels and me working together, but just the 2 of us figuring things out step by step. And before we knew it, the windows at the back were in place. After that it was time to move on to the side walls. And this is where things got a little more interesting. We didn't have a fixed plan in our heads yet, but we had 2 full window frames left, both still in really good condition, and both of them could actually open and close properly. So our idea was to use them on each side of the greenhouse, so we would have a really good airflow and be able to ventilate the space easily during the warmer days. But we still had to figure out the exact placement and how everything would line up with the structure. But once we finally committed to one side, it actually went a lot smoother than expected. Everything lined up nicely, and suddenly it felt like we were back in the flow again. Just building, adjusting, and seeing it come together in real life. And of course, once one side was in, the other one followed pretty quickly after. It was one of those moments where you realize that even the parts that feel uncertain at first usually fall into place once you just start. Day 6, the last day. Today is all about finishing touches. Since we chose to go with a sloped roof, there are still a few gaps that need to be filled with smaller windows. So we carefully started placing those last little pieces, fitting them up into the open spaces where the larger windows just didn't make sense anymore. It's really a bit like solving a puzzle at this point. We even could start digging out the entrance properly now. So the shape of the greenhouse is not just visible anymore from the outside, but also you're starting to feel how you will actually walk into it. We honestly never thought we would already be at this stage, working on all these small finishing details. A few days ago we were still digging the foundation, and now we're suddenly at the point where everything needs to be tightened, aligned and finished. The roof beams are already in place and the entire structure is really starting to feel complete. Step by step, all the little gaps are being closed, and it almost feels like the only thing left is the roof. But the roof is not going on yet. That is actually the only part of the greenhouse we will be buying new. We really wanted to take our time with that decision and make sure we choose the right material for it. So that will come at a later moment. We're also closing off some of the remaining open areas with wood, just to make sure everything feels solid, closed and properly finished. And what's interesting is that these are exactly the kind of details you don't think about when you start a project like this. But they end up taking quite a bit of time. But at the end of the day, it was done. Everything except for the roof was finished. And suddenly, standing here in the garden, it really hit us. We actually built this together in just a few days. We brought our grill inside, set up a table and some chairs for everyone, and turned the greenhouse into this cozy little gathering spot. Because how better to end a project like this than the Swedish way, with korv and bread, all together inside something we built with our own hands.
I'm not one of the young